This is Trevor Piara and Tom Liddy, and we're going to be presenting on biodiversity loss in the Amazon. So let's start off with a brief overview on biodiversity. So biodiversity is the number of different species and amount of different species and the variability in a current in an ecosystem. So it's one of the most complex features of our planet, and certainly the most complex in higher density population of biodiversity. It gets more complex as you go down because it starts at genes, and then individual species can have different types of biodiversity within their own. It'll go later on to communities of creatures, so you can have mammals, frogs, and different types of avian creatures. And then you'll go down to entire ecosystems, which can have a wide variety of species and even different types of families. So why does this matter, especially in the Amazon? So as we all know, there's been a recent increase in the fires devastating the Amazon. So we've had a rise in deforestation and certainly a rise in fires. As the WWF says, regional government programs and laws are pushing for the constant development of their forests without little regard for the ecosystems. So what does this mean for the Amazon? Well, they're currently losing 10%, they are currently using 17% of their forest cover. And along with that forest cover, they lose more and more biodiversity. 10% of the world's biodiversity is in the Amazon rainforest. 15 to 16% of the world's total river discharge is also in the Amazon. So this is kind of an overview on deforestation in current countries. And you can see one of the worst areas is in South America, and especially in Brazil, where the majority of the Amazon is located. So this is obviously a growing problem, and how can we solve this? Well, my partner Tommy Liddy will run you through a couple of these solutions.
So the first solution comes from Daniel Nepstead, a PhD who spent over 30 years in the Amazon rainforest, the Brazilian Amazon rainforest, and he has written and published over 160 papers and books on ecological processes, frontier dynamics, and public places shaping the region today. He says that in order to reduce biodiversity loss, we need a marketplace transition in the beef and soy industry. He says this will happen by supporting soy sections for declining deforestation, and this will be supported by identifying, rewarding, and expanding the pool of responsible producers who strive to comply with the law and practice good land stewardship. This graph shows the relation between the soy and beef production and annual deforestation from the years 1994 to 2013 in Brazil. He says that this $26 million cost to the Brazilian government will be worth it because the benefits of reduced deforestation outweigh the opportunity cost to society. These benefits include reduced forest fire, air pollution, flooding, biodiversity loss, soil erosion, and perhaps rainfall inhibition. So those would be the pros. The cons are that this hasn't been tested, and it assumes that soy and beef producers will follow and comply with Brazilian laws and not chop down Amazonian forests to create new farms. Our second solution was reported by Liz Kimbrough on a new study conducted by Janet Lesman, a doctoral candidate from the Pontificia Universidad de Católica de Chile. And what they did in the study was they put prices on different species, plant and animal, and on different lands that provided different ecological benefits to the Amazon rainforest. And using these prices, they tried to determine what would be the best way what would be the best lands to preserve in order to protect biodiversity in the Amazon. One of the more interesting things in the study was, and this is a quote from Janet Lesman, "It surprised me finding that for the region, the presence of indigenous lands in protected areas was associated with lower management costs. And as you can see in this graph, in the areas that they chose to protect, they compared it specifically with indigenous lands in order to lower the cost to only $20 million. And the total land this covers is 223,622 kilometers, which is about half the size of California. And the reason this is good is because it provides more rights to the indigenous people in those lands, and it boosts Amazon and it boosts biodiversity in the Amazon, and it's cost effective. The cons are that people disagree about which species and which lands we should preserve over other species and lands. And also, this only focuses on the eastern section of the Amazon, or the western section of the Amazon that isn't located in Brazil.
So the third and final solution to fix the decreasing biodiversity in the Amazon is increasing Amazon protected areas. According to the Food and Agriculture Association of the United Nations, Amazon protection areas help minimize the impacts of climate change on the Amazon biome and increase the resilience of people's livelihoods to these environmental changes. By ensuring a regional cross-border approach to the Amazon, the project better protects its biodiversity and safeguards the communities and local economies that depend on the Amazon for food and livelihoods. Amazon protection areas not only help stop Amazon deforestation, which is a big factor in the loss of biodiversity, but it also helps the lives of the people in the Amazon and decreases associated side effects of the destruction, such as climate change. According to Victor Soares, a writer for the World Bank, the Amazon Regional Protected Areas, or ARPA program, addresses deforestation by expanding and consolidating areas under strict protection. With origins in Brazil's Amazon basin, ARPA is working to increase the total protected area to 10,000 acres. This shows that the solution is feasible and that organizations are already working towards increasing these protected areas under strict supervision. Now, there are some pros and cons to this solution. A pro is that this method can be cost effective. These protected areas can also give endangered species a good place to recover from the human destruction of their habitat and allow them to potentially repopulate. This solution would help prevent large destructive wildfires because there would be a smaller chance of human-initiated wildfires in these areas. Some cons, however, are that it may be difficult to enforce these limits on such a large scale, and it would also be difficult to catch trespassers in these areas. Harsh consequences would have to be established to discourage trespassing. In closing, protecting Amazon biodiversity is extremely important because, according to Natasha Dali, a well-known writer for National Geographic, writes, "Once you take the rainforest away, you lose 99% of all species. If the Amazon is not well protected, then over 99% of the species could be lost. This would be devastating to the environment because, for the overall well-being of the environment, because many species depend on others in the ecosystem. In order to combat this destruction, the best solution was Solution 3, increasing protected Amazon areas of the Amazon. This is the best solution because it would allow for biodiversity to recover, stop deforestation in these areas, help indigenous people, and help combat global warming. Finally, this solution is the most feasible out of all three potential solutions and also has the fewest drawbacks to its use. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Just a couple of questions before you go, and we'll just work our way straight across. So Tyler, how did the group decide to include or exclude Trevor's IRR from the overall presentation? How was that decision made?
So basically, we read through all of our IRRs, and so his was about the environmental aspects of it. So he had a lot of statistics and things that I would use in my presentation for the opening, and I found quite a few of those in his presentation. And so we basically utilized his for a lot of the information that we used to back up our own solutions and parts of the community.
Terrific. Tommy, reflecting on your colleagues' work, what would you say, which one of them had the biggest influence on your overall understanding of the Amazon rainforest?
I would say Trevor's IRR had the greatest impact on my understanding. In my IRR, I talked about the cultural impacts of Brazil on the Amazon and its biodiversity, and that helps me get an understanding of that, a little bit of economical and political influence in the region, but I didn't understand how the biodiversity was there and how it was produced and how it was sustained. And that's where Trevor's IRR came in. His always talked about the reason that biodiversity exists in the first place and how we can sustain it. So that, paired with my understanding of my IRR, really helped me understand the situation in the Amazon.
Terrific. Good. And then finally, Trevor, how did you guys overall improve your ability to work together as a result of working on this project? Can you identify a few things that you learned?
So we learned to value like certain aspects of each other's work. So, for example, Tommy had a solution about wildfires, and we worked together and decided that it was not really relevant to the other solutions or very feasible. So we looked at each other's IRRs to find a new one. So we've learned that if something doesn't work, we can always just work together and find better solutions.
Fantastic.